This course is brought to you by AppyPie as part of our Academy series.
Next up are the page widths. And this is something that I got from that article from Thrive Themes, and it's a great idea on how to make a website look professional. And the way they described it is some websites just have that look and others don't. And a lot of times it's hard to put your finger on why that's the case. But one of the key differences is professional sites use page widths. So let me show you what I mean by that. If you go on this website, you notice that there's different widths. So for example, this box is a little bit wider than these post-it notes. And then it goes back to wider for these GIFs, and then not so wide for these freebies. And that's because I'm alternating between different page widths. And unless you're a website design professional and you have your own widths in mind, a great way to start is just default to 1100 pixels for width number 1 and 960 pixels for width number 2. And I'm going to show you what this means when we actually build a website. And finally, you want to choose the fonts that you're using on your website. And what I like to do is I like to have two different fonts. One font for the headers and one font for the paragraph text. So for example, here's the header text, or the header font. And then this is the paragraph text, which is a different text. So now you might be wondering, how can I find out a great font to use for my website? Well, what I did is use the free tool that's a plugin for Chrome called What Font. And what it does is when you click this plugin, you just hover over any font on a website and it tells you what font that website is using. So this is great if you go back to your inspiration and open up one of the websites you really liked. So for me, I like the fonts on this website in particular. And I just clicked on what font, hovered over, and saw that they were using Lato. And if you click on it, it gives you more information about the font, such as the style, the weight, and the size. And so I wanted to use Lato for my font. So I wrote that down as font number 1. But then I needed a font for the paragraph. And this is maybe a new idea for you, but using Thrive Architect, it's incredibly easy to use something called Google Fonts. And these are web-based fonts that Google has collected for you. And so we wanted to find a complementary font that was also using Google Fonts. So what you can do is, in this case, let's say you go to that website, you say, okay, Lato is great. I want to use that for my website. Then you're going to want to look up Google Fonts Lato. And just make sure that Lato is a Google font. Because if it's not a Google font, you can still use it on your website, but it gets a lot more complicated on how you install that font. So for our case, we want to stick to fonts that are on Google Fonts. So here we're like, great, we know Lato is a Google font, so it's going to be super easy to install on our website with Thrive Architect. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a bit. But now we want to find a font that pairs well with Lato. And what's great with Google Fonts is they show you popular pairings. So here you can click on these different ones and see what look do you like for your fonts. So here's Lato at the top, and then here's a font called Oswald. And after going through all of these, my favorite was Open Sans. So that's the second font that I decided to use for my website. And because we use this pairings tool inside Google Fonts, I know both of these fonts are fonts that work with Google Fonts. So they're going to be easy to install. So I wrote that down. And that's it. That's how you fill out your design code for your website.